Hello, hello, hello. It's Keita Williams, founder and chief strategist of Success Bully. Success Bully is an elite accountability practice, so that makes me your personal professional butt kicker. Happy Monday, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy close. We're closing out February. It's such a short but full month, if you will. It's a short but full month. So I hope that February has brought you joy, has brought you opportunity, and has proven to you that if you are continuously taking action, you will continuously see those results. So I am super excited. We're wrapping up our monthly theme. Our theme for this month was falling more in love with your side hustle and really focusing in on some of the things that we can do to make that side hustle a reality. I don't. If you've been following us for a while, you know that when I started Successfully 6 years ago, I said it as a joke, turned into something. But while I was scaling the first, I want to say like year and a half, I was working full time. Right. So I was working full time. So I know what it's like to go to a very demanding corporate job and still have to make space for your part time coaching practice or part time consultancy. And so I want to assure you that it can be done. It is possible. It can be done, but also that, we have to be consistent in our actions and we have to show up and play full out all the time. And so I, this little chitty chat that we're going to do right now is inspired by some conversations I had last week, and I hope that they're watching, or maybe they'll watch it later. Maybe I'll send it to them. Just around the idea of procrastination procrastination. And so I think that I even asked my sister who has her own side business, I said, what's the biggest threat to your business? What do you think is the biggest threat to scaling your side hustle? And we both agreed that it's that procrastination. But sometimes procrastination doesn't always just show up in not taking action. Right? Procrastination doesn't always show up with just the inability to take action. Procrastination can show up in what I like to call perfect procrastination. And it's just a little bit different than run of the mill procrastination. You're avoiding taking action, you're avoiding the behaviors that you need to complete a certain task, or you're avoiding opening a certain piece of mail because you feel like it's bad news, or you're just avoiding the action. Where perfect procrastination is a little different. Perfect procrastination seems to be a favorite a tool in the toolkit for hyperachievers. Hello, hyperachievers. If you're in this community, if you're following us, you're more than likely a hyperachiever. Uh, and a hyperachiever approach to procrastination is actually you're quite busy. You're quite busy. You're doing a whole bunch of stuff, except for the stuff that's uncomfortable or the activities that actually drive revenue in your business. And so we're going to talk about perfect procrastination, and I'm going to try not to call nobody out by name. So first, I want to describe what it looks like. So what do I mean by perfect procrastination? So I want to give you some examples, and then I want to give you some tips on how to combat it. And if this sounds like you, I want you to wave your hands in the comment. I want you to comments. I want you to put your hands up. Put your hands up in the in the comments if this sounds like you. If this sounds like you, if you can relate, and you might do one of these, you might do two of these, you might do all of these. Okay? So I'm going to start with my first type of perfect procrastination. And again, this usually aligns with my hyperachievers, right? It's the notion of perfect timing. Perfect timing, where you're waiting for the perfect moment to get started or to take the next step, right? So you may be trying to align to meaningful events. You may be wanting to wait for the kids to off to college. You may be waiting for things to slow down in your corporate career. It's a busy time. So you're waiting for it to slow down. But the reality here, when we're looking for that perfect timing, there's no such thing as a golden hour for your business. There, you're always going to be busy. There's always going to be demands, from your family. There's always going to be, um, you always are going to have to take care of yourself. You have to work for right now. Not saying, but you will have to work in your business too. So there's always going to be things taking up space and you're vying for your attention. So there is no such thing as a perfect time, right? We have to make it a priority. We have to create the space for it, right? So, and so that first notion, the first thing when I think about that perfect perfectionism, that perfect procrastination is the idea of waiting for the perfect time. Or I'll wait till Monday. Or I'll start next quarter. I'll wait till this top of the year. And it goes you're pushing it out, you're pushing it out, you're pushing it out, you're pushing it out. Or I need to give myself 6 months before I can launch this coaching program. You don't need all that time, right? So we don't need the perfect timing. The other thing that I notice in terms of this perfect procrastination that we see quite a bit with our high performing hyperachievers is the idea of perfect research, right? Perfect research. One of my clients calls it procrastination. So, educating yourself or doing a bunch of research that distracts you from taking action. Or, you're filling up your time getting all this information, and you might even go down an information rabbit hole. Maybe you went on YouTube to answer one question, and now you watched 6 videos, and you have yet to do the work that you're supposed to do, right? Or, you may find that you're curious about something and you go ahead and short of enrolling in another bachelor's degree or a master's program, you take a bunch of courses, you get a bunch of certifications, but you still don't actually apply it, right? Where it's learning. And a lot of these things that I'm describing in terms of that perfect procrastination, it has to do with, if you're experiencing this, I want to congratulate you that you are brilliant. You are brilliant. You're brilliant, but there's a double-edged sword to being brilliant. There's a tendency to overthink. There's a tendency to want to have all the information, do all the research before you can take action. I have a running joke with a couple of my clients about stupid people are out here winning. And the reason why they're out here winning is because they know how to do one thing and one thing well, and that's all they do. Or they take action with only part of the information and they figure it out as they go along, right? So the double-edged sword of being brilliant is this need for information, or the acquisition of knowledge before you can take action. And the reality is you're not going to know all the information. You're not going to know all the information, but you can make the best choices based on what you do know and based on what you're capable of, right? We don't have to have all the information within our space to show up and serve. We don't need to have all the information about the competitive set to work with clients. We don't need to have all the information on marketing and social media before we can post a very simple reel. We don't need to have all the tips and tricks before you can take action. Part of the learning is going to be in the doing. And you're going to learn the best from your mistakes. The best teacher is mistakes, especially as an entrepreneur. Your best teacher is going to be those missteps. Your best teacher. Okay? The other piece where I see that perfect procrastination show up is perfect details. And perfect details, similar to that perfect research that we were talking about, is the idea of spending far too much time to make things look perfect. So that's over rotating on a website, spending way too much time on social media captions, or mapping out a whole client process without a single client. Spending way too much time on newsletters and videos, and all of these things that don't make the business money, but they distract you from the uncomfortable rejection that you could possibly experience from reaching out to your ideal client, the possible rejection and nervousness that comes with having consultation calls, any worthiness problems you have about how you price your services. But getting caught up in these details to look perfect, to look like you have the perfect coaching practice, is exactly what'll keep you from getting clients. Right? Spending all this time on things that don't move the ball forward, that don't make you money. When you have tens of thousands of visitors to your website, then maybe you'll have a conversion. Maybe your website will. If you have an e-commerce business, yes, it's important to have a great website. Service-based businesses, really, some strong copy and a good headshot, simple landing page, and a way to book a call with you is good enough for right now. And so I want to assure you, we all start with a crappy website. We all start with no followers. We all start with how we think we're going to serve our clients. We all start with what we think our programs are going to be. We all start with what we think our services are going to be. And as time goes on, it gets refined. It gets better. All of those details get better with time. When you have more paying clients, then you can hire an expert to build you that website you want. You can hire an expert to help you with growth hacking with your social media following. But I don't want us getting so caught up in the things that don't make the business money, that don't allow you to serve at the highest capacity. And so it's really easy to spend so much time making things perfect that you don't actually take action. And I remember many years ago, well, maybe when I first started the business, I was kind of meeting with kind of a mentor coach. We were just kind of chatting about what we wanted. Um, and if she had one PowerPoint, she had six PowerPoints about the big plan. So many planning documents on how all of this was going to roll out, who she was going to partner with, all this other stuff, and no action. And many years later, well, not even 6 years later, a handful of years later, my practice is so much further along than the person that's still making PowerPoints. So if you find yourself creating all these planning documents and attending, I guess this can fall into perfect research and perfect details, attending a bunch of webinars to learn more, to acquire more knowledge, going to webinars and taking all these calls on how to fix your business rather than just doing the business. These are all examples of that perfect procrastination, that we get so caught up in things that are well-meaning. None of these are particularly negative, right? Like, timing does make sense. Having perfect timing, we do our best there, but we shouldn't stop doing something because we don't feel it's the right time. There is a place for research, but when we are consumed with hours of research, especially if it's research well outside of our zone of genius and stuff that we're never going to touch more than 5-10 minutes in a lifetime, that's taking you away from connecting with your ideal client, or that potential platinum client, inviting them to have that consultation call, hosting that consultation call, and presenting them with the opportunity to work with you. You can spend hours on research. You can spend hours in the details. You can spend hours on planning documents. You can spend hours on crafting the perfect social media post to your 30 followers. You could spend hours. I do these live streams with an outline, y'all, and sometimes the outline is handwritten. I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm looking to show up and serve. This is not a high quality production. Sometimes I get the lighting right, sometimes I don't. Sometimes technology supports us, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm looking to show up and serve and be consistent and get and connect with my ideal client and connect with my ideal community to inspire, support, give you a little bit of insight and maybe entertain you a little bit. I'm showing up to serve. I'm not showing up to be perfect. If I was perfect, this hair would look totally different. So those are the three big things, and I'm sure there's others in terms of that perfect procrastination. And I even think in the perfect details, we could also include that overthinking, where I've seen this a couple times, and a honk if I'm driving up your driveway, but you're so worried about your full-time job, finding out that you have a side hustle, that you overthink taking action out of fear that you'll lose your full-time job. And the reality is, if you are not in violation of your non-compete and you're not breaching some contract, you should be fine. If you're non-solicitation, non-compete, you're fine. I probably used the wrong legal terms there. But you know what I mean? Like worrying about the wrong thing. Well, I don't want my job to see this, or I don't want my boss to see me posting about this, or I don't want my boss seeing that I spoke at this event. 93% of your time, your boss is not checking for you. And I have heard in the years that I've been doing this, I've heard of one person getting their hand slapped by the legal department, and that was because it was poorly executed. Just emailing employees about working with you. So understand those things, but don't over rotate. Don't get so knotted up that you're not taking action, right? And so that's what perfect procrastination looks like. It's the waiting for the perfect time, doing all this excess research, whether that's learning something new, trying to understand all of it, or trying to have all the information before you make a next step. You're attending all these webinars, you're buying all these books, you're you're signing up for all these courses instead of just actually taking action and learn as you go. Entrepreneurship is on the job training, trust me, right? And then like the perfect detail, so spending way too much time trying to look perfect rather than just taking that imperfect action. Imperfect action will trump perfect waiting every single time. Okay, so now I described to you some perfect procrastination, which is you're really busy. Perfect procrastination isn't idle for the most part. There, your plate is pretty full because you're spinning your wheels doing stuff to avoid the stuff that matters, doing other stuff to avoid stuff that matters, right? So how do you manage it? How do you break the cycle of perfect procrastination? I'm so glad you asked. I'm so glad you asked. Okay, I'm gonna lay the heavy on you first. Being a hyperachiever and a perfectionist and doing this perfect procrastination, this is all forms of self-sabotage. Most of the time, hyperachievers, we develop these um, systems the to avoid threats that are either real or imagined in childhood, right? So when I say the deep work, let me lay the heavy on you. Most of the time, when you are avoiding what will move things forward for you that will take you to that next level, that will increase your earning potential, increase your impact, It comes back to a worthiness matter. Do you feel worthy enough? Do you feel like you're enough? Do you feel like you're enough um, to show up this way, to run a business, to get paid what you're worth? Do you feel like you're enough? And so that self-sabotage, this comes back to like maybe there's some therapy that needs to happen there where you can understand where that hole comes from, where you don't feel like you're enough, or you have that fear of failure or that fear of success. There's some deep work you can do there with a professional. I am not that professional to help you there. But there's also some mindset work. We're talking about programming. We're talking about what sort of internal dialogue is going on where you're self-sabotaging, where you can feel some sense of comfort and control from doing excess research and making sure things are really perfect, and trying to manage time so that you're perfectly showing up, right? There's a deep work there. There's a mindset work. So I would say, um, explore. I'm not sending anybody to therapy, but this is self-sabotage at its best, and it's nefarious in the sense of you look busy, you look like you're moving things forward, you look like you're taking action, except not the right action, and so you really are self-sabotaging. And I've done it. I've done it. I'll be the first one to tell you I am a hyperachiever in recovery. I am working with a coach, and I've done some therapy around it, and why I showed up in the world that way. It was what I was praised as a child for being a hyperachiever. It was something I could control. If I wanted attention, it was from being a straight A student and being an academic and getting a scholarship to one of the best schools in the country. That was how I received attention and praise. But where did that come from? And why did I feel the need to behave that way? Why do I still show up as a hyperachiever? No one's asking me to be perfect, right? And so this is a form of self-sabotage. And when we're self-sabotaging, we got to do the work. We got to do the work, because you don't just wake up and stop self-sabotaging. You don't just wake up with the tools to manage it. It takes work. And so whether that's working with a therapist, whether that's working with a mindset coach, a really quick resource for you is Shirzad Amin. He has a book called Positive Intelligence, and he really goes broad and deep into the idea of mental fitness and how we self-sabotage, and tools and resources to manage that self-sabotage. So Positive Intelligence, I'll put the link in the comments. It's positiveintelligence.com. But great book, great resource, great program to work on the mindset component of this, right? To work on that deep work, that mental work. Because whether you know it or not, you are holding you back from having your best life. You are holding you back from having the business of your dream. You are what's holding you back from taking it to that next level. And so if you are the biggest threat to your business, you're also the biggest resource, the biggest asset, right? And so when we have an asset, we want to take care of that asset. Okay. Um, and so there's the mindset, mental, emotional work that goes behind it, and then there's the action work. The action work. So you can dig into the trauma and the childhood memories and that sort of thing that creates this sort of feelings within you and behaviors. You can work on that, and you can work on how to manage it from that perspective. And then there's the action work. There's the action work. And one way to manage procrastination, whether it's perfect procrastination or run of the mill inaction, regular procrastination, is work with a coach. Work with the coach, because then you can get the accountability, you can get the strategy and the support. Whereas therapy is going to work on the emotional component, And some of that mindset work is going to work on breaking the cycles of that negative thinking. Working with a coach is going to give you the action, the yes and. So yes, we acknowledge that we have this type of behavior, and here's what we're going to do next. So it becomes very action and outcome oriented. Whereas therapy and mindset work is going to kind of work on the state and unraveling the state and understanding the state. Coaching is going to get you from point A to point B. Right? We're gonna get it managed, and I'm not saying you have to do one, or you don't have to do both. You don't have to do one then the other. You can do them simultaneously. You can pick and choose. But know that procrastination is a bigger issue than you just didn't do it. Procrastination usually is a form of fear, right? It is some sort of, it's self-sabotage, it's fear. There are so many ways that we derail ourselves before we even get out of the gate, right? And not taking action, waiting for the perfect time, creating a bunch of PowerPoints, feeling like you cannot launch your business, feeling that somebody didn't want to talk to you because your website wasn't perfect. I'm going to tell you, very few people have said, "Hey, I found you via your website." I don't think anybody has ever said that to me. So, with that, I want to remind you that if this sounds like you, if you can identify with any of these things and you can acknowledge that, hey, maybe I have been self sabotaging. Maybe I have been getting in my own way with this perfect procrastination where I'm busy, I'm doing the most, but my business isn't moving forward. Now I'm tired and I'm getting frustrated. I want to encourage you to book a strategy call with me, and we can talk through how we can best untangle this. Sometimes you just need a little bit of clarity and a pathway forward. Sometimes we got to do a little bit of deeper work. But I want to extend the invitation to grab some time with me. So you can go to successfully.com/call and get some time on my calendar, and let's chat through, what does perfect procrastination look like for you? How does it show up for you? All right. Once again, I am Keita Williams, and I am the founder and chief strategist of Success Bully. And as we close out February, I want to remind you to fall more in love with your business, whether you are an emerging entrepreneur, a side hustler, or a full-time entrepreneur, and show up and serve. Be consistent. Be disciplined, and most importantly, share your light with the world. All right, y'all, let's get after it.